Hi, everyone. I'm Marilyn, CEO and founder of Cosmic Centers. And for those of you joining us for the first time on a Friday morning or afternoon, welcome. If you don't know who we are, we're Cosmic Centers. We're an organizational and leadership development consultancy. And since the very beginning, we have been running the Cosmic Conference. This is actually our 6th edition. And we see it as a space to learn out loud and to share what we discover with the world. Each year, we try to choose a theme that we think is high on the minds of the leaders that we serve. And we've done everything from rethinking how you lead teams to the employee experience to strategy execution. But this year, one theme kept coming up in our conversation, and that was the theme of systems. Many leaders told us they felt stuck in firefighting mode, solving problems that kept coming back. And what we realized is that this wasn't a failure of leadership or strategy, but of the systems that we rely on. And so our theme this year is the system is the strategy to help leaders shift from firefighting to future building. And across 3 tracks, we explore what it means to think in systems, from the foundational tools and methods to real-world examples from leaders who've built systems to scale or innovate or sustain or even reclaim their time, all the way to the human and spiritual dimensions that bring heart back into the conversation. If the rest of this conference is about frameworks and structures and leadership and understanding all of that, today's session is about feeling them. In our conversation with Rawan, we're centering on the human behind the system, exploring the invisible, emotional, and intuitive dimensions that keep systems alive. As Donella Meadows, the thought leader in that space, beautifully writes, living successfully in a world of systems requires more of us than our ability to calculate. It requires our full humanity, our rationality, our ability to sort out truth from falsehood, our intuition, our compassion, our vision, and our morality. And joining me today to discuss that is Rawan Albina. Let me introduce her really quickly, but first, Rawan, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Marilyn.
So, quick intro. We really tried to compress your resume, and it was hard. But Rawan currently serves as the Director of the Leadership and Wellbeing Academies at Chalhoub Group. She started her career in marketing with Nestle and decided to leave the corporate world in 2007 to pursue her passion for coaching. Rawan worked as an expert associate partner with McKinsey & Co., focusing on leadership transformation and organizational change before joining Mobius Executive Leadership, and has since offered executive coaching and leadership development to clients throughout the Middle East, Europe, North America, Australia, and Africa. She's trained by Gita Bain and Lisa Doig in deep consciousness work as a facilitator of transformation. She's also certified by the Value Center as well as the Leadership Circle Profile. Rawan spent 2 years diving deeper into the world of trauma healing on the Timeless Wisdom training journey with Thomas Hubble. She believes in mindfulness as a gateway to presence and impact, and has made it her life's mission to help raise the consciousness of individuals and leaders in the Middle East, in the hope of creating positive impact, not only in organizations, but in communities and nations. She tries and does stay true to her purpose through every action she takes and every program she creates and delivers, opening the hearts of leaders. Rawan, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully to all those who are joining us as well, we'll be able to give them a little bit of that purpose today. And of course, we prepared lots of questions and lots of discussions and themes for the day. But just before we started this, when you joined us a few minutes ago, you offered that you and I and Tala, who was with us in the backstage, take a minute to arrive and to set an intention. And together we agreed that maybe we could offer the same for our audience today. Can you guide us?
Absolutely. So you were just mentioning mindfulness when you were reading my bio. And I really believe mindfulness is the gateway to presence. So if some of you on the call today are not used to taking a few minutes and closing your eyes, it's okay. We're going to invite you to close your eyes, but if you're not comfortable, you can simply just lower your gaze. And wherever you're sitting, just make sure your spine is upright, your feet are firmly planted on the ground. And when you're ready, you can simply close your eyes. Close your eyes, and depending on how shallow your breath is, you might want to take a few deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. A couple of times. Until you feel that your breath is regular. And you can simply focus on the breath in your chest, watching it rise and fall with your mind's eye. Feeling the earth under your feet, sensing the pull of gravity, feeling the support, feeling yourself really relaxing in your chair. I invite you to let go of any thoughts you have in your mind right now, any expectations, any tasks on your list that you haven't been able to tick. Let them go and simply arrive. And when you're ready, still connected to your chair, to the earth, open your eyes. Welcome.
Thank you for that gift. It was a beautiful gift when you gave it to me in Tala a few minutes ago, and a beautiful gift now. I think you and I were talking about how crazy this week has been, the context of the year where we all sit in it, and how much must be on individuals and leaders' minds about what they still have to do, and also how much energy they have left to do it this year. And so letting go of this week and letting go of what's not finished and taking a minute for yourself is the most beautiful gift you could give us. We all need it, especially in this part of the world where Jitex is coming next week.
Next week, absolutely.
And everybody's just running around like a headless chicken. I'm sure that this moment will give energy to everybody who joins us. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. So, when we first invited you to come and speak at our conference, and we said we're going to be talking about systems thinking, you had a gut reaction. You're like, wait, hold on a minute. I'm not a systems person. I actually really kind of take a minute to understand where I am in a position to a system. I'm not like immediately on board with this. And I thought that's where we would start today, because I thought that you created space for a great distinction between the self and the system, and how we choose to show up in them. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts around this, and maybe the story of the Constellations workshop in Italy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, when you said systems, I immediately went into my head and I thought about this complex thing, and I started seeing, highways and roads in in my head. And then I remembered that actually I did study systems, except not the intellectual complexity of systems. I studied systems through constellations and understanding principles of systems through Bert Hellinger's work and constellations workshop I attended through that some of my colleagues at Mobius were offering in Italy. And there was a question they asked, and that question was actually deeply powerful. And it's a question that guided my decision making when I was choosing to move out of Mobius and I was choosing my next career step. And the question was, which system are you part of today where you fully occupy your place? And when they asked the question, I had to stop and really take it in because I had never thought about it. Because, you know, in our life, we are part of so many systems. We grow up in a system, our family of origin, then we go into school, that's another system. Then we go into university, that's another system. Our friendships and the people we meet along the way, that's another system. And then we find ourselves in different jobs, that's another system. But we become parents, our new nucleus, the nucleus of the family we create becomes another system. And so if I think about where I fully occupy my place, it was a really difficult question to answer at the time. But then it became a guiding question when I wanted to make a career move. And when the opportunity to join Chalhoub Group came, that's the question that I asked myself. Is this a role where I will fully occupy my place? And by fully occupying my place, it doesn't mean that, oh, is the title good enough? Is the salary good enough? Is the role big enough? It's really, for me, it's about, is this a role that's going to allow me to bring my gifts to the world, to really bring my full self, to open my wings and really fly? Or is this system going to put me in a box, label me, and then expect things from me? And this is actually how I negotiated the conversation with the person who is today my line manager. That question informed the whole conversation. And on the 30th of October, it'll be 2 years for me in Chalhoub Group. And this question continues to guide me. And I'm very happy to say I am fully occupying my place, and my heart is really joyful.
I love that. Rawan, what does it feel like when you occupy your space fully?
The best way I can explain it is there's an expansion of the heart. You feel that it's not only an intellectual exercise, your heart is fully engaged in the action, in the conversations you have. You have energy to do things, you're creative, you're empowered. Heart expansion, plus so many other things.
And how then, on the other side, do you know when you've outgrown a system or when you're not fully occupying your place? What does that feel like?
First of all, you feel that you're smaller in a sense that the system asks you to give less, to be less. And you also feel that you're in a comfort zone. And you start doing more of the same. And very often you find that there's not much room left for creativity or innovation. And so you automatically shrink. And before you know it, it feels like a box. That's how I would describe it.
I've definitely been in those systems. I'm sure we all have. You spoke a bit about this comfort zone piece in a way, because it's very interesting that you combine this. It's not just that you are unhappy or miserable or, don't feel fulfilled. Sometimes it can just be that you're not being challenged. I think that both of those things at the same time is a really powerful thing.
Yes.
Because we can confuse comfort zones for comfort.
Absolutely.
I remember in the beginning of this year, you know this, I choose words for my year every year.
Yeah.
And this year, one of my words was longing. And
Mm.
I remember speaking to someone who's a therapist, and she said, "Why longing? What's the opposite of longing?" And I said, "Satisfaction." And she said, "And how is that a bad thing?" I'm like, "You don't know what you're talking about." um, and that's a really interesting challenge to put out there
Mm.
to those who are listening to us today. How do you know when you're in flow versus when you're in comfort zones, the unproductive side of things?
Yeah. Let's first talk a little bit about comfort zone, because comfort zone is not all that bad, right? We want to be comfortable because the only way to integrate learning and growth is to come back into our comfort zone. So we need time in our comfort zone between growth stages in our life, because we all know growth only happens outside the comfort zone. So you go out, you learn, you come back, you integrate. But as a result, your comfort zone grows, right? It's not the same comfort zone you had 10 years ago. It grows as you grow. So we need to be in our comfort zone, but staying too long in the comfort zone, that's when the danger lies. And the difference between comfort zone and flow, I would describe it simply in the energy. Are you in an energy of being, just being, or are you in an energy of creation? When I'm in flow, I'm creating. I'm connected to the creativity of my heart and my mind. And I am moving towards a target, an objective, a dream, whatever we want to call it. In the comfort zone, there's more being, and more, very often, there isn't a movement forward. To me, this is how I would describe the difference.
I think that's a really nice distinction. And also, you've given us a really nice permission, which is that it's okay to go in and out of it. In fact, it's recommended almost.
Oh, it's so important. Yeah. Actually, I think the reason why some people hit burnout is because they're never going back into their comfort zone. They're constantly moving from one thing to the next. Because when you're in flow and you have these creative juices, it's addictive, and you want to keep going and you want to keep creating. But it's so important to celebrate each milestone and come back and integrate it before we move to the next one.
Can you share with us, maybe for you personally, across the years, what one of those comfort zones has sounded like? Like, what's a place you retreated to, and what did you learn from that place?
Yeah. I'm a lifelong learner, and I have to be learning at least one new thing every year. But for the longest time, while I was alone, building my own coaching practice in the first years after leaving Nestle, I was learning and learning and learning. And I wasn't necessarily applying what I was learning or applying it enough. And I had to say yes to a big project once. And I realized that saying yes to this project was a huge leap for me, because I had been in my comfort zone for way too long. I know a lot, but learning and this continuous learning became a comfort zone. I noticed that it had turned me into some kind of a learning hermit, you know? And I wasn't ready to face the world with everything I know and join this big project. So I really needed to acknowledge that this is going to be uncomfortable. And I actually hired a coach at the time to help coach me out of my comfort zone in order to move into this big project and say yes to it.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm trying to think back to one of mine. I will revert back with an answer later.
No problem.
um, I don't know. I have to think about it. Something to reflect on this weekend. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. Um, this 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 intentionality in again this moving in and out of the comfort zone, learning to recognize it, learning to see the systems that do or don't serve us, and to do something about them, because sometimes we see that they don't serve us but we don't
We
have the
still.
capacity
Mm.
to do anything about it. We have a question from the audience that I think is a great one to bring in now, um, which is around how can leaders build the inner capacity to stay grounded while being in constant movement?
Mm. Um, it takes intentionality and practice.
Hmm.
You can't simply decide I want to stay grounded while I keep moving. You really have to practice being grounded while moving. Um, Part of my training as a facilitator of transformation was to start a practice of meditation. And at the beginning, it was really hard. But I started in 2016, which means that next year it would have been 10 years since I started meditating. And I can tell you the weeks where I don't have time to meditate, I can feel it in my energy, I can feel it in my output, I can feel it in my conversations. I can also feel it in how easy it is for me to handle challenges and my own resilience. So I always make it a point to carve out time to meditate in the morning, at least for 5 minutes. Before I give a workshop, before I walk into an important meeting, before I have a conversation with my team members or anyone of my peers, I take a moment, I ground myself, I take a deep breath, and I state my intention, just like we did today. And um, it takes practice. And some days I forget and I bring myself back. But it's about being intentional and saying, not being grounded is not an option for me. Um, and when we're tired, we tend to be less grounded. So, am I taking care of my body? Am I sleeping enough? Um, yeah, and all the programs that I offer that we've designed at Chalhoub Group as well, I start always with an element on self-leadership because I really believe in this grounding and the importance of this grounding. And doing your inner work as a leader is also a big part of the ability to stay grounded.
Yeah. And you know what I always, it's funny, we've had now, I don't know, we're at webinar number 7 or 8, and
Mm.
of course, conversation number 400. Um, what I find really interesting about what you're saying about systems, by the way, say like there's this dual layer of really small things, because like
Mm.
the 5 minute meditation, you reminded me of a friend of mine, Maria Baladi. I'm sure she's listening to us today.
I know,
She's
Maria,
the
yes.
first person who introduced like this idea of like, let us, we might all have intentions, but let's voice them, to me, at one of our offsites that we were doing together. um, and this morning we had a session about how to build a high performing team, and everything was in the small things that you do,
Yes.
as well as always the purpose. And the first thing you learn about a system is that the reason a system exists is to deliver on a specific purpose or outcome.
Absolutely.
And I really love that this is something, so you just, one way of learning is pattern recognition, right? And
Mm.
no matter what I'm talking about in this conference, whether it's performance or reconnecting with yourself and your heart as a leader, these two things keep emerging. The small
Mm.
things that you do well every day and with intentionality, or every so often, and then
Yes.
the big questions like why.
Mm.
I wonder if what that provokes for you. I know purpose is a really strong element of how you show up.
Yes, yes. Um, I believe that these micro movements, micro decisions, micro steps, whatever you want to call them, these small things that we do are the pathway towards our purpose. And when we say purpose, people immediately think about these big things, like this big neon light at the end of my road that says where I'm going and what I'm doing. And purpose doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. I was facilitating a session with some of our women leaders yesterday, and part of the exercise was coming up with a simple purpose statement. And some of the leaders had difficulty connecting to a purpose because in their mind it had to be this big thing and they couldn't imagine it, you know? And for me, it could be something as simple as, I don't know, if you love cats and you find that you're constantly making sure no cat is astray and you're finding homes for them, then for now, this could be your purpose. My purpose is to find homes for stray cats. It's very simple, you know? I remember when I started, my purpose was this long sentence because I wanted it to be big. I wanted it to use, all of me. And I remember I brought in some element of the meaning of my name. Rawan in Arabic is the smell of the earth when it rains. So I wanted there to be rain. I love dancing, so I wanted there to be some dancing. And, I wanted to, through my work, remind people to be alive and to do all of these things. And now it's just a simple 2 words: opening hearts. This is what I do. I remind myself that through every conversation I want to have, through every interaction, every workshop, every coaching session, I'm just opening hearts. And I always aim to connect from my heart through to someone else's heart. And for me, this is my purpose. And eventually, opening hearts has great impact on so many things. And I could think about this impact over the long term. I can see how big it can be, but also, it can be something as small as having a conversation with my daughter. She comes back from school. She's had a tough day. And I'm just connecting to her heart. And I'm making sure that her heart, after our conversation, is leaving at peace. So, yeah. And if we connect this to systems, I work with many leaders, and I find that it is much easier for leaders to be motivated and to feel really empowered to make a difference if they are connected to the bigger purpose of the organization that they're part of. If I, as a leader, am not connected to the bigger why of this organization, then I'm not going to be able to find meaning in what I do.
I 100% agree and connect with what you're saying. And I want to ask you a question on behalf, maybe, of our audience. Um, for someone like you, or even someone like me, this morning with Storian, we were having the same conversation. Like, we've managed to position ourselves in our life where what we do almost every minute of the day is so close to our purpose that we can't burn out theoretically, because we just have this inextinguishable well of vigor and energy and love and reward, and the sense of like being able to really feel in almost every interaction how we're serving that. But I can imagine that some leaders listening to us today, they're not that close to their purpose by design.
Yes.
What's one way, you might be working, I don't know, for a company that sells plastic packaging for food, or, like, oh, I sit here from my high horse and I'm like, oh, we're making workplaces happy. And that sounds great, Marilyn, but I don't have the luxury of this. But
Yeah.
what's one way that we can maybe help leaders think about how they connect their very simple personal purpose and then the purpose of their organization, because we know, as you just said, that when those two connect and when we feel aligned, we can have beautiful impact in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get this question a lot because I work, and over the years, I've worked with many leaders from very different industries. And they say, well, yeah, it's great for you because you've chosen this life and you've chosen to be working so closely to your purpose. But what about us? And I always say, what is one thing that you do in your work today that really makes your heart sing? It could be anything. It could be, if I'm speaking to an accountant, the accountant might tell me if I have balanced ledgers. Does this make my heart sing? No, but it makes their heart sing. And the purpose might not be only to have these balanced ledgers, but who I am while doing it is what matters. Because purpose is not this end destination, it's the journey. And this is, I think, where we forget, because we're constantly working towards goals. We're constantly working on forward movement, and we forget that actually it's the journey that matters. So how am I feeling while I'm doing what I do? This is the biggest indicator of whether I'm on purpose or not, regardless of whether I know what my purpose is.
I love that. One of my, well, my only coach, I should say, why I don't know why I'm saying one of my coaches. It's just I have a lot of people in my life that help to care for me.
Yeah.
But I remember in one of my transitions between different roles, Suzanne made me just try to imagine my perfect day. And it wasn't about like the big stuff that I was accomplishing. This was like off the page. Like I was not allowed to talk about that. I could only talk about what time I woke up, where did I work, was it at home or not, what time did I arrive, what activities was I performing during that day, and what made my heart sing, I suppose is how you would put it. And that's been one of the most powerful exercises in my life, because
Yeah.
it really allowed me to come to that realization that it is just about figuring out, sometimes it's just these small things, and whether I do them for cosmic centaurs or one day, I mean, I wrote this before cosmic centaurs was a thing, but I didn't know where I would be doing them. I didn't have a company name or a specific industry I wanted to be in, but I knew that I wanted to be doing a certain number of very specific things.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really powerful exercise.
Yeah.
How do you think that as leaders, you said, like, we always start with a bit of self-leadership and reconnecting with the intentionality, the purpose, the small things that we do every day, how we manage our own energy and presence. But bonus points, leaders also can and should maybe do this for the people around them. But they're not all, coaches, or this isn't what, they don't have all the tools. But maybe what's a very practical, down to earth way that leaders can help those around them, um, give them access to those tools that we're talking about?
Yeah. I've learned through my trauma-informed training that people around us template our nervous system. So as a facilitator of transformation and as a leader, my job is to become a very grounded and calm nervous system that people around me can template. And what do we mean by template? Basically, it's like plugging into this energy source. And when this energy source is calm, then the people who are plugged into it become calm. It's just like, your child just fell. They run into your arms, they're crying. The first thing they need is a hug. They climb on your lap, you hug them, you hold them, and you tell them it's going to be okay, right? This hug, in that moment, your nervous system is giving a signal to your child's nervous system that everything's going to be fine. And because you're calm, they're going to start to calm down. And I think it's the same for leaders. The more we are able as leaders to calm our nervous system down, and this is where the self-work comes in, the more resilient I am, the more I can keep my head on my shoulders in the middle of a crisis, the more I know how to self-regulate, the better of a nervous system role model I can be, or a templater. I don't know what the word is. So when people come in my orbit, they can feed off my calmness and my energy. And I think before tools and before teaching people what to do, if our presence can create this for others, then we're already on the right path.
I really resonate with that. All week long, we've been having conversations about how leaders can show up authentically, but still be that grounding energy. Because sometimes, we're told, oh, you should be authentic and vulnerable and so on. And sometimes we mistake that for thinking that as leaders, we can just show up as we are, with whatever raw emotions, feelings, processes are going on. And we've had a lot of conversations this week about the intentionality and authenticity, because you are the template, you don't have that luxury, quote unquote, to just, I mean, it's okay to be human, and it's perfectly okay to have a bad day, and it's okay to make mistakes, even to hurt others, if you know how to walk back from there. Like, no one's perfect. But this idea that there is some form of duty in some way, if I can use that word, it's a word that doesn't trigger me at all. Like, I think duty is beautiful, towards others, to just also manage your volatility and manage that
Absolutely.
nervous system piece. If you don't want to do it,
Yeah, I hear you. And thanks for saying that, Marilyn, because people mistake vulnerability for a permission to show up and just give people who I am.
yeah.
And vulnerability is also saying, I'm not at my best right now, and this is not a great time for this conversation.
Yeah.
It's about knowing where I am. There's this beautiful video that I always use in my workshops, and it's available on YouTube. It was created by the Conscious Leadership Group, and it summarizes a lot of the personal leadership work that I do. It's called, if people search above the line, below the line, they will find it. And basically, they talk in this video about the importance of leaders knowing their location at any point in time. And they represent that by a simple line, and they say leaders can either be above the line or below the line. I will not go into the details, but basically above the line is when we're our best selves on a very good day. Below the line is when we're not our great selves on a bad day. And the reality is that we continuously oscillate and we move all the time. Nobody can stay above the line all the time. But some people are capable of staying below the line for a long time and be victims of their own life instead of feeling empowered to change and realize that they're at choice. So the whole idea is that we are at choice. And when we know where we're located, if I am below the line, then what are my strategies? What am I doing to step above the line? And as a leader, I cannot permit myself, that's the duty piece you're talking about. I cannot permit myself to lead from below the line.
That's so powerful. Yeah. And you're reminding me of something my mother used to do with me when I was a kid. As all parents, especially a mother and her daughter, there were many moments where we would have heated conversations about a disagreement, whatever it might have been. And I remember that, you in those moments, it's a very below the line moment, if you want to put it in those terms. Especially for an adolescent or a young child, there will be a moment where you start saying things you don't really mean, but you're trying to express an emotion that's hard, anger, like shame, whatever it may be. And of course, your mother is where you throw all of that. And I remember my mother used to do something, which is when she'd notice in our conversation that her or I were about to start saying things we didn't mean. She would say, okay, we've arrived to that place. We're going to pause. We're going to sleep on it. And tomorrow morning, we'll start again. And I bring that into my leadership a lot. I can, like, anybody on my team, on days where maybe they brought a difficult piece of information to me, or a situation that triggered me, or they will have seen me use this trick where I'm like, I'm going to give myself permission not to respond today, because I know that my response today will not be the best version of myself.
Absolutely.
And that was such a gift that my mother gave me, that ability to give myself grace and say, not today, because I do want to show up in a better light than what I can right now.
Very wise.
Everything I've learned, I mean, I always say my mother is V1. I'm just like the second iteration. That's all. I'm just expanding what she started.
You know what you just shared is another version, a real life version of writing a really angry email as a response to something and putting it in drafts.
Yeah.
This exactly. is the live the lab application.
Yeah, and there's nothing a good night's sleep can't make a little bit smaller the next day.
There's a reason why there's an expression that says sleep on it.
Totally. Yeah. Wisdom in those things. I want to ask you another maybe tough question here. One of the things, like when the conference started, and it's why I love that the conference lasts as long as it does, because I get to like have interactions and stories in the middle with leaders. And one of the leaders who wrote to me said, so for context, this person is based in Lebanon, has been there for many years, has been trying to do a lot of impact work. So truly a hero in my mind. And they said to me, Marilyn, I really want to stop being in firefighting mode, but look at where I am. So sometimes the system around us feels insurmountable and feels like, it is trapping us. One of the things we learned when we were researching for this conference is that people from our side of the world, and this was recently confirmed also by a readout of results from the Leadership Circle profile, that systems thinking is one of the dimensions where people from here score higher than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And part of that is because we live in broken systems. And so we actually see the systems more than people who live in that function.
Yes.
And so what would we say to that person? Because I thought, like, yeah, I get you. Like, I understand. I've been there. I remember once I was in Beirut and I was meant to make a hiring decision. And I remember texting the candidate and saying, I know I promised you that I would answer you today, but if I make this decision while I'm here, physically here, I'm going to take the risk-averse route. So I need to wait till I go back to Dubai, because I will then see what my heart tells me there, and then I can make a more balanced decision. But how do we respond to someone who feels like the system, the very country, the things that they feel are bigger than what is in their control is not allowing them to be in the best place possible?
Yeah, this is a very important question. And I connect it back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The basic level needs should be met. And then the relational level, which is love and belonging, and then self-esteem, and then only then can self-actualization be met. And then the Barrett values model is also built on that, and then he expands this further. And one very basic concept in this model is, unless I have my basic needs met, I am not able to free up the mental or the emotional space for me to be creative and innovate and go bigger or think bigger. And when it's a chronic situation of basic needs not being met in a context and a system that is constantly pushing me to be in firefighting mode, I think the only way I can survive something like this is if I'm really connected to my purpose, like an umbilical cord type of connection, you know, where my purpose to make a difference on the ground in this broken system is so much bigger than the power that the system has on me. Because this is going to be the thing that's going to make me wake up every day, find my feet, stand up, and keep on walking. And I really need to have my own resourcing every single day. I need to find ways to stay grounded. I need to find ways to bring joy into my life, because I cannot be broken in a broken system. If I am broken, or if the system ultimately breaks me, that's when I know I need to leave the system.
I love that. It reminds me of the work of Viktor Frankl. I think the
Yes.
quote is something
Man's
like,
search for meaning. Yeah.
yeah, those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how.
Mm.
And of course, I mean, it's both powerful and I'm sure triggering for anyone who
Of
hears us
course.
say this.
Yes.
But you know, his work is based, of course, on the he was himself in the camps and he studied those who survived it. Esther Perel talks a lot about it as well.
Yes.
And just this idea of, in some ways, it's like, this is what you have. And
Yeah.
so I love this idea, you cannot be broken in a broken system. I know that it puts more of the burden on you as an individual, but also gives you more of the power in some ways.
Yes. And you know, I truly believe that as souls in this human body, we are here for a reason. And if I find myself in this context and I am continuously being pushed in a context like this, it's because my soul has a purpose to complete in this system. And so the question is, how am I contributing to the system? And what is this system offering me with its brokenness? What is the one thing I need to learn or grow from? It's always a question to ask. What is the gift here, even in the most difficult situations? And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But the more we practice asking these questions, the easier it becomes for us to answer them.
I get that. And it's hard. And these are questions that I've only maybe even just this year started um, to take seriously, if I want to put it that way, because I've always been a very kind of rational, logic-driven, you know, thinker, and even when I am, I'm like, it's all happening in my brain. And only this year have I started to maybe think a bit more meaningfully about the gift, and this ability to always, if you know, to always decide and to be intentional about how I show up in every circumstance. So yes, it's not easy and the burden is there, but there's also maybe no better way to deal with it than to go back to these fundamental questions.
Yes.
um, I want to ask you a question from our audience. Patton says systems are shaped by relationships within them. How can leaders cultivate rituals or shared practices or anything else that comes to your mind that help people feel more connected to each other as well as to the purpose of the system itself?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thanks, Faten. Um, it's really through leaders, again, being intentional about what they're planting. It's like, and relationships are like flowers in a garden. The seeds that I plant are the flowers that will ultimately blossom. And there are tools that we can use in teams that help us to get closer. And for example, one thing I introduce in all my workshops is the check-in, which is a beautiful tool that consists of always checking in on how are you feeling, Is there anything standing in the way of you being fully present? And then asking anything that the system needs on the day, whether it's something connected to a meeting or something you want to achieve that week. And giving the chance to every single member of the team to express themselves for a minute. How are they feeling? Is there anything standing in the way? And maybe the third question could be, is there anything you need from us? Which very often we forget to ask. And just having this quick round, say you have 5 team members, it's literally 5 minutes of your meeting. If you do something like this, then you are able to, first of all, understand where everyone on your team stands on a specific day, where they're at, how they're feeling. And at the same time, you're role modeling vulnerability, and you're allowing for more authentic and human relationships. You're telling the team that it's not only about results and performance. It's not about how you show up. And, we all have business personas and we all show up a certain way at work. It's about, just for a minute, let's drop the mask and see what's really going on. And then when we offer support, then the people who are in relationship with us know that they can actually count on us, and it's not just talk.
Again, with the very small nudges. I really love that. Again, a lot of what we've learned, honestly, is that rethinking or shaping or not or moving a system is often in the small, repeated interventions, rather than any big moves. Maybe one last question for you before we wrap up with our rapid fire ones is, part of us being in a system is also sensing it and being able to respond to how it is changing, whether that system is our team, our company, the country we operate in, whatever it may be. How do you stay open to that sensing quality? What are some practices that leaders can have to also stay aware of the systems around them?
Have plenty of conversations. Listening. So many leaders love to talk, but they really need to listen. It's true. Because we get to be the leader because we know so much, and then it could be from a place of, I want to give to the world, and therefore I need to teach all these people what I know because I've gone through my own processes and I've learned so much in life and I want to give back. But also we often assume what others want and we're not sure what they need. So listening, having conversations, but also being present enough in my body and not in my head to be able to sense intuitively what is not being said. There is something we always feel, but we tend to ignore the feeling because we are trained to think with the head. What is my feeling telling me? And unless I slow down enough to listen to my feeling and listen to my body, I will miss all the cues. So if I am going really fast and I'm in, do rapid fire, I'm going to miss all the cues. So can I slow down enough? Can I have the important conversations? Can I listen enough? And then can I use my intuition and my feelings to sense what is happening in the system around me, not only to assume through my brain, in my head.
Someone in the audience said something similar along the way. Shadi, he says, it happens when you return to calm and focus and also listen. It's beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Rawan, before we wrap up, honestly, I could stay here for another 30 minutes, but but I can't. So before we wrap up, we have a couple of questions that we ask all of our speakers at the end of our session. Are you ready for them?
As ready as I can be, I guess.
So the first one is, help me complete this sentence. An effective system is
a connected system.
If you did have a favorite systems thinking or sensing or being tool, what would it be?
I love the iceberg. I use it in different shapes and forms, and I know they use it in systems thinking as well. It's very adaptable and versatile, so it's my go-to.
Absolutely. It's a
Mm,
really good one, and people don't forget it.
yeah.
And last but not least, what is a leadership mindset or skill that is most needed to nurture systems thinking?
Curiosity. Staying
Absolutely.
curious.
Thank you so much. Thank you for today, Rawan. I think it was
Thank
could
you,
not,
Marilyn.
we had to reschedule this to a Friday afternoon. It was meant to be on Tuesday, but I think everything does happen for a good reason.
Yes,
And this
it does.
could not have asked for a better way, not just for myself, but also for all the leaders who are with us today to close the week.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Marilyn, for the beautiful conversation. It honestly felt like 5 minutes to me. It didn't feel
It
like
really did, by the way. I'm looking at the hour pass and I'm like, no, no, surely we have more time. I felt the same way, and I'm sure I know that how I feel is how our audience feels. So I'm sure this was a beautiful moment for everyone who tuned in, and maybe
that.
those who will be listening to us later in the weekend. Um, we do hope that everybody has a nice and restful weekend so that they can show up with energy on Monday.
Yes,
It's going to be a big week for everybody. And
absolutely.
the Cosmic Conference will also be back on Monday, October 13th, I believe at 2 p.m. with Wissam Adib, who's also a common friend.
Mm,
Um, there, we're going to go back into action and we're going to talk about what he's learned in 20 years of serving the Prime Minister's office here in the UAE about how you build systems for innovation. So take a good rest because on Monday, the energy returns and we'll be talking about doing, not being. But until then, we hope everybody takes great care of themselves and we'll see you all very soon.
hello.